What's up guys, the Chad Champ here, and considering the next installment of the Monsterverse is upon us in the form of Godzilla x Kong, I thought why not finally drop a video relating to the King of Monsters himself. Now I've always been a fan of Godzilla. I mean, how can you not? He's a giant lizard that shoots nuclear energy out of his mouth. However, I think the version that I'm most educated about is Legendary's current interpretation of the character, as over the past few weeks I've consumed practically all of the content relating to the verse. Whether it be the movies, shows, or even the more obscure material such as exclusive guides that come from Japan, my brain has absorbed it all. Also, just a side note, the current crossover between the Justice League and Monsterverse doesn't mean anything for the scaling that I'll be presenting in this video, as one, it's stated that it isn't rooted within the main continuity of Legendary Godzilla, and two, there are multiple pieces of evidence that point at the DC Universe seen within the book itself being a completely new world that doesn't line up with any of the more recent events in DC Comics. As for the Avengers side of things, I'll be using the most iconic Avengers roster from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that being the team composed of Black Widow, Hawkeye, Captain America, Iron Man, Hulk and Thor, though I'll be taking them at their absolute best, without any external amps. Godzilla, King of the Monsters, is the last of his species and a protector of the balance of the world. Having been around for millions of years, Goji has faced all manner of threats, from the species that evolved specifically to kill him in the form of the Mutos, to the False King and Godzilla's ultimate nemesis, King Ghidorah. After retreating into the Hollow Earth due to the decrease in radioactivity on the surface of the planet, Godzilla eventually returns during the 20th century and battles a fellow Titan in the form of Shinomura. After the parasite is defeated, Godzilla goes on to rest for another 59 years, before returning to rid the world of the pair of juvenile Mutos. After defeating the couple, Godzilla is able to rest easy for a few months, until another member of the same Muto species shows up, this time having reached its ultimate form and looking to make itself even more powerful by absorbing radiation. After multiple meetings between the two, Godzilla's dorsal plates are shattered, and in a Hail Mary attack unleashes a nuclear pulse which leads to the demise of Jinshin Mushi. Flash forward 5 years and we have the King of the Monsters reawakening after his one true nemesis returns in the form of King Ghidorah. The lightning-spitting alien attempts to terraform the Earth by creating various storms all over the planet, as well as using its role as a rival alpha to the Big G to then let out a cry that awakens around 14 different titans that were dormant all over the world. After going 2 rounds of Ghidorah, being put on death's door via the Oxygen Destroyer, and then being granted a huge power-up by Serizawa, Godzilla arrives to battle Ghidorah one last time. Despite initially winning the fight, while Mothra and Rodan do battle at the same time, Godzilla is on the brink of taking another and final L to Monster Zero. However, thanks to the nuke from Serizawa granting an ever-growing supply of energy, along with Mothra sacrificing herself to empower Godzilla, along with the humans distracting Ghidorah, Godzilla is able to get back to his feet and enter his burning mode, to ultimately kill the Titanic usurper. After re-establishing the natural order as king, Godzilla returns to hibernation after finding a new lair, however is later awoken by the fact that his rule is being challenged yet again by the emergence of both Mechagodzilla and Kong. After going 3 rounds with the King of Skull Island, Godzilla and Kong eventually team up to take out the mechanized counterpart of Goji himself, and then basically agree to go their separate ways. And soon we'll see him and the King of Skull Island both undergo developments in power, with Godzilla becoming supposedly stronger than ever thanks to his new pink glow, and Kong gaining a mechanical glove designed to boost his strength. The two kings will then be pitted against Scar King, an orangutan-like ape titan who wields a whip fashioned from the spine of another titan, as well as his ape army, and Shimu, a titan that has the potential power to cause an extinction event due to its ability to manipulate ice. Looking at the stats of the King of the Monsters, I think an absolute baseline would be to look at how we have titans such as Godzilla and Kong being able to survive portals into the Hollow Earth. Now these portals are stated to reverse an entire planet's worth of gravity onto those that jump into them, and being exposed to this much gravity would be the equivalent to 313 petatons or multi-continental levels of energy. Considering that this was done without any protection and the titans use these as a form of travel, this is a very casual feat and would be what I consider to be the baseline for the stats of Godzilla. Now for a feat that actually requires a bit of effort, in the form of Ghidorah passively generating a storm due to its bioelectric biology. While the creation of the storm itself may only be large country, actually moving said storm across entire oceans would take 63.5 exatons at a mid-high end or moon levels amount of energy. And probably the most impressive feat of all is Godzilla casually blowing a hole into the centre of the Earth during the events of Godzilla vs Kong. Considering it's implied that Godzilla's atomic breath is most likely tied to quantum states, we would take subatomic destruction into account as the method used when calculating this feat, which would then give us the result of 4.7 zetatons, or small planetary levels of energy. Then, in the 5th cinematic installment of the Monsterverse, we have Godzilla undergoing a power-up into his pink form, which was based on one of the most famous power-ups in all of fiction, that being Son Goku's Kaioken, as confirmed by the lead designer. And in true Dragon Ball fashion, this transformation comes with some neat multipliers, as obscure but official Chinese marketing states that Godzilla has gotten twice as strong. Applying this to the previously mentioned calculation would put Godzilla much higher into planetary, as we now get 9.4 zetatons. Now, considering that Godzilla's atomic breath is said to be his most powerful weapon, it would upscale from the aforementioned physical stats. However, we see in the movie that Godzilla has increased the energy capacity of his dorsal fins by 20 times what they originally were, allowing his breath to now be 10 times above his new base, very Kaioken. So applying this second multiplier, Godzilla's atomic breath can now produce energy equivalent to 94 zetatons, or planetary levels of attack potency. However, this would most likely be the max amount of energy his body can produce, such as in his supercharged state, with the novel stating that when he accessed this form, his body could barely contain the energy and that his atomic breath was stronger than ever before. As for speed, I think a lot of you will be genuinely surprised to find that the combat and reaction speeds for the top tiers of the Titanfeld universe are also sitting within a rather impressive tier. This comes from the energy that Godzilla produces being stated to be Cherenkov radiation, which, when moving in air or water, is faster than light. Now, the reason why he's this fast is because both King Kong and King Ghidorah react and dodge his atomic breath, and of course Godzilla is able to react, dodge and fight both of the aforementioned characters. So, taking this into consideration, Godzilla would also be comfortably within the FTL ranges. The Avengers were initially an idea devised by Nick Fury after meeting Carol Danvers and coming to the conclusion that Earth would need a consistent team of spectacular beings to provide protection against threats that were too much for any one hero. Originally consisting of 6 members, such as Thor, Iron Man and Hulk, all of whom had been recruited due to their feats of strength and valor in their standalone movies. Together, they fought off Loki and his Chitauri army that was attacking New York. Succeeding the events of Loki's invasion, the team continued to expand, with standout members such as Wanda Maximoff and Vision joining during the events surrounding Ultron, an AI gone rogue who then attempted to commit global genocide by dropping the country of Sokovia from orbit. At the end of the events of Age of Ultron, the original Avengers roster disbands, with Captain America and Black Widow being the only 2 remaining. Following the events of Ultron, we are met with the events of Civil War, which sees Baron Zemo act as a puppet master to ensure that the Avengers team destroy each other from inside out. The conflict results in 2 groups supporting opposite views. Team Iron Man, who are all 4 heroes having to serve as government agents, and then Team Cap, who are on the side of heroes remaining 3 people. The teams duke it out and we get to see matchups like Spider-Man vs Captain America, Black Panther vs Winter Soldier, Black Widow vs Hawkeye Round 2, and Scarlet Witch vs Iron Man. The movie eventually climaxes with an all-out brawl between Iron Man, Winter Soldier and Captain America, to which by the end, the Avengers are more or less disbanded. And this situation stays the same for nearly 2 years, before they are needed to become stronger than ever to face the threat of Thanos during Infinity War. Though the team went on to eventually peak during the final battle of Avengers Endgame, whereby almost every past and present member came together to defeat a version of Thanos and his vast army. Looking at the Stativerse defenders, we'd start off with Black Widow and Hawkeye, the former being able to fight Ant-Man, who is able to tank a portion of the explosion caused by Thanos' ship. The part of the explosion Scott takes is said to come to 0.07901863193 tons of TNT, which amounts to small building level. However, Widow has a way of increasing her OP, with Natasha's suit channeling the same energy that is used for a Widow's bite, allowing her strokes to become enhanced during times of melee combat. Even on the lowest setting with her electricity-based attacks, she was able to affect Black Panther enough to stall the King of Wakanda from reaching and killing Bucky Barnes. Next up, we have the Star-Spangled Man, Captain America. Steve Rogers isn't that far apart from Black Widow and Hawkeye, with him performing the feat of breaking a concrete pillar when throwing one of Ultron's bodies, feat also being calced to small building level, with the number being 54,639,711 joules. After that, we have Iron Man, who is really the middleman in terms of the team when it comes to stats, as while he scales well above the prime mentioned characters, he's also below Hulk and Thor, being as the latter was capable of fully one-shotting him with Mjolnir. All that said, he'd still be able to backscale from the strongest Avengers, as he's capable of damaging Thanos and rocking Cull Obsidian with both his regular attacks and the more flashy abilities provided by his armour. So to actually find out how strong Tony is, we need to just look at how strong Hulk and Thor are. And the stats for Thor and Hulk are no different than the ones that I provided for Thanos in my Omni-Man vs Thanos video. where the God of Thunder has performed the feat of practically nuking Jotunheim, the realm of the Frost Giants, with his lightning, and that caused a portion of the planet to be destroyed. And this feat would require the energy equivalent to 39.5 teratons of TNT, or country levels of attack potency. When it comes to speed, we have practically everyone's combat and reaction speed scaling to at least massively hypersonic plus. This is something that I've covered in my Thanos vs Omni-Man video, but that speed tiering comes from Thor fighting Hela, who has been calculated to move at speeds at Mach 1545.54, with the God of Thunder also being stated to move as fast as lightning in the script for Thor Ragnarok. Thanks to the appearance of Captain Marvel, we can also scale the cast to speeds reaching relativistic, as she's able to scout an entire planet in a calc that puts her at 70% the speed of light. This would of course backscale as Thanos reacted to Carol mid-flight, as well as her energy blast, which have consistent statements about them being photons. Now I know it seems absurd for non-superpowered beings like Hawkeye and Black Widow to be able to react to near light speed attacks. However, this is just part of the course when it comes to fiction, especially when you have a verse such as the MCU, which, just like its comic counterpart, suffers from various ranges of the stats of these characters, thanks to the many writers that take on board the task of putting their interpretation to screen. So with all the stats out of the way, how does this play out? Well, when it comes to this matchup, I see it going even worse for the Avengers than when the meeting between Earth's mightiest heroes and the King of the Monsters happened during the latest Marvel comic run. The Avengers, at least in the form presented in this video, just don't have the strength or firepower needed to take on such a formidable threat. Iron Man's brilliant tech? Well, that shit got pressed by a meteor during Infinity War. Meanwhile, a much younger Godzilla than what we see on screen was smacked on the head by an extinction level asteroid and was just fine. Hulk's gamma enhanced strength? Godzilla would literally eat Bruce Banner for uprooting the natural order and as a sort of protein. Even Thor's storm generation and lightning wouldn't mean anything, as Godzilla has faced Ghidorah, a being that has the capability to replicate those abilities so well that if Odin saw the alien titan in action, he'd strip Thor of his title as the God of Thunder and give it to Godzilla's rival. Now with all that out of the way, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Godzilla's a character that I've always liked since I was a kid, as I mentioned earlier on, and I've been really passionate about researching the Monsterverse for the past few weeks. Maybe I can do more Godzilla content later on, maybe do some Monsterverse matchups and whatnot. But thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.